Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter had sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man.
There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Farron D Show. We're celebrating Lupus Awareness Month. Again, I've been a lupus supporter since 2011, influenced by one of my soldiers and his wife. He was in a car bomb in Afghanistan, and she was home battling lupus. And when that car bomb happened to him, I just remembered why he was out on his third deployment. Sacrificing his life so that his wife could get that medical care, from the military. And putting all that together with the Lupus LA Foundation, Kimberly Dansby at the time was helped me put that together. But what was more striking was that her best friend and my soldier was in the same vehicle in that car bomb, and her best friend died. So they were together in that same vehicle. My soldier was severely burned, and her best friend passed away. And so at that point, I just knew that, this is something that I wanted to give my time to share my platform. Back then, I was starting my sickle cell trait awareness conversations. And I saw that this conversation was just as important because it's people and the relatedness of these conversations. And then I found that people with sickle cell trait and disease also manage lupus together. Some people deal with both. So then it was just, what better way to support these conversations with people who are managing these chronic illnesses. So that's why I do this. That's my reason why. 2011 is 2024. So yeah, here we are still today providing conversations around this. My guest today, we've been in communication. I want to say, I didn't check how long, but we've been communicating for few years now. probably early on when I started this lupus advocacy work, that we connected, and she's finally ready to share her experiences with me. She's making time out of her work schedule today to come on and help us support this lupus conversation today. So with no further ado, we have Kelly Tapp. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for hanging out today.
Yeah, of course. I like that you included Kim Dansby in your intro.
Yeah.
When I first started going to Lupus Foundation of America events, Kim Dansby was one of the first people I met.
No
which is
kidding.
and she connected with me to Kim House, and then
Mhm.
I met my lupus bestie, Nia, through a Ben Lista event at UCLA. So, like, I have all these strong females in my life who also have lupus that are doing their thing, and I love it. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned her, and I'm so sorry about both of your guys' friends, and thank you for your
Yeah.
service. And just to hear him sacrifice for his wife is amazing. I had no idea that that was their story, but what an amazing man.
Yeah.
And yeah, how is his wife
Yeah.
doing?
They're good. They're good. He survived the car bomb. He's out of the military now, but they're doing fine. So
Yeah, what a great
but
couple.
yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that's about how far we go back with Kimberly Dansby. During
Yeah,
that time
so
frame.
we were really counting because you were wondering years. I have been diagnosed for, I think March was my 15th year anniversary, which I can
Wow.
celebrate my anniversaries. I think I probably met you like 5 years into it. So
Yeah.
I probably know you for at least a decade.
So let's get started.
Yeah.
Just give a little background. Don't give it all away. Just introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, my name is Kelly Tapp, and I'm a real estate agent. I have my company called Tap Into Real Estate, so super easy to remember me since my last name is Tapp. I have an undergrad from UC Irvine, a graduate degree from USC, and I've done a lot of work with the community prior to being involved with lupus through my internship when I was in Washington, D.C. I'm born and raised in Long Beach, so I worked for the Congresswoman at the time who covered Long Beach, Torrance, and some of the South Bay areas. So always loved being involved in the community. I have parents that immigrated from Cambodia. They're refugees, so my roots really run deep in Long Beach, and I try to stay involved in the community, whether it's for my city, for the community, the culture. But obviously, because I've been diagnosed for 15 years with lupus, I have a very, very strong tie to the lupus community. I used to do a lot of fundraising with LFA. For the first 3 years or maybe 4 years, I was one of the top fundraisers. I want to get back to that. So I have been busy with balancing life and trying to stay healthy with workouts and also running a business. So it's been difficult to do it all, but I am here to answer any of your questions and share my story. So that's me in a nutshell.
Again, thank you for making time out today.
Of
So,
course.
who is Kelly growing up as a young child? What was life like?
Oh man, that's like a therapy question, huh? Growing up in Long Beach, I was very lucky. We're definitely a melting pot of like so many different backgrounds and cultures. We have a mecca of food here, which I also have an Instagram that I'm passionate about called SoCal Foodie Realtor. If you guys want to follow me for the food stuff, and then for the business stuff, it's Tap Into Real Estate is my handle. But I have always had a love for food. Even growing up, I was around a lot of people that can cook. And then my cousins went on to being like great culinary heroes. One of them is a Michelin star pastry chef. I look up to him and I'm very close to him. So growing up, I just was around a lot of different cultures. I got to experience a lot where in a neighborhood where one neighbor is Hispanic, another is Asian, and I went to Poly High School. So you know how big Poly High School is, where we had over 4,500 students when I was going there, 2 campuses. So I am very well versed in a lot. And that's me growing up in Long Beach. And, you know, I did go to middle school in Lakewood. So just a lot of cultural experiences.
Yeah.
And my parents were a little bit more strict. I didn't really get to do a whole lot when I was young. But when I got older and through that experience in Washington, D.C., where I worked with the foreign affairs director, she had a lot of questions about the Cambodian American community in Long Beach. So that's when I had to venture out on my own as an adult, and I started getting more involved and learning more about my culture, because I think in the younger days, like a lot of Asian American families, the parents just want you to focus on school and do well.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really involve playtime or sleepovers. It's like stick to what you're supposed to do. So I had to like do all of that as I got older, was find my way through like the cultural events like the Cambodian parade, or I, you know, went to Cambodia for the second time as an adult, where the first time I was only in second grade and didn't know what was what. So just finding out more about my culture through travel, and then also traveling to other countries when I had internships in London. That's when I explored Europe as well. So a very culturally enriching childhood, I guess.
So Long Beach, you know, there's for they say elementary, middle school, that transition. How did you handle that? Because you were Cambodian American, did the other communities embrace you, or were they kind of like, who are you? Like, where are you from? Like that.
That's so interesting that you asked that, because Long Beach has the second highest population of Cambodians. And you would think that that would make me feel like comfortable. But I think like when I was going to school, everybody that was when you're young, you don't know, like, you don't ask people like, what's your ethnicity? You're just friends because you're friends, you know? So like, I never really like found comfort in that. I was just always comfortable in Long Beach, and I still am, you know? I just think everyone in Long Beach is really, really inclusive. But I would say my sister and I are born here in Long Beach. My parents are the ones from Cambodia. So we've had, even though we're raised by the same parents, we had 2 different experiences. But I would say the shocker was more not really like elementary to middle school. Yeah, like I would say Lakewood had a different demographic, even though it's only like 15 minutes away. There wasn't too much of a shock there, other than there was 4 other Kellys and I was the only Asian Kelly. But I didn't really think that was a thing, you know? The only time I had like a cultural shock, believe it or not, is when I went to UC Irvine. So even though it's 30 minutes away, it is very segregated still.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would say that was the only time. And I think like that's the beauty of Long Beach, is you're kind of in this protective bubble of everybody loves everybody. We accept you who you are. And yeah, so that would be the answer to your question. I hope that answer is.
Yeah, no, that's good, because and I heard you say how your parents were more focused on making sure that you got your education versus the sleepovers and hanging out. So as a teenager, as a young person, how did you deal with that? Wanting to go and be with your friends possibly and hang out. Now, how did you manage that with your parents?
Well, you know, you have to go through the embarrassing things, which is like one of the most popular like movie theaters is AMC Marina Pacifica here, right next to the newest shopping center in Long Beach, 2nd and PCH. That was my family's go-to movie theater when I was going to high school. And my parents took us every weekend. They made sure we had our experiences, but they made sure they were there too. So of course it was a little embarrassing seeing your friends go with each other, but you had to be with your parents. But I dealt with it to a certain extent until like it got a little too much. And then I kind of just fought my way through finding my independence, because my sister was older, but she never really paved the way in terms of, you know, sometimes you have older siblings that are like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And then the younger sibling has like an easier time. That wasn't the case. So I kind of just got to a point where, you know, I had to fight my way through it, make it a point that I wasn't up to doing anything bad while I was out with friends, and kind of gain trust through, you know, little trips here and there. I think it started off with like a smaller trip to San Diego. And then as I got older, I was like, we're going to go to Mexico. And, you know, they didn't really have a say about that. Then it kept going more out of state. But it was a while until I didn't start doing international travel until like, I would say like in my 20s. But in high school and stuff, it was pretty domestic. Yeah. But I wish my sister paved the way, but she's her own person.
Looking back as an adult woman now to that era of your childhood and teenage years, would you say that they did that because from love, for sure, right? Would that
Absolutely. I think going through it, you're just like, I have the worst life. Why is everybody going to do other stuff? But then now it's like, okay, it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that my sister and I are somewhat normal and didn't, you know, we never spent time in jail or anything like that. So maybe they did the right thing.
Yeah, we don't see that in the moment. As children, we don't see that in the moment, you know, but looking back as adults, it's like, okay, now I get it. But in the moment, it's like, I can't stand my parents. Like that.
Yeah, no, it would seem really strict, but yeah, I guess, you know, they're happy that their two girls are college grads. Didn't cause too much trouble.
Yeah.
I caused enough, but not too much.
Yeah. And I say that for the listeners, you know, we just had Mother's Day. Father's Day is next. Some people still aren't connected to their mothers, even as adults. And these could be some of the things that are in the way that our perception of our parents could be corrupted because we think that they were this kind of way when we were younger and they didn't do this for us. But really, if you really tell the truth, they did the best they could with what they had, with the age that they were, with that era of time. And so that's just one way I have a conversation about that forgiveness of our parents, right? Because sometimes people are not connected or they blame their parents for their life. And your parents just wanted us to turn out. That's all they really wanted at the end of the day.
I think you're right in the sense that like everybody has that little phase in their life where they want to play the blame game, but you can blame all you want, but until you start taking accountability that you have a role in this too, that's when the real change happens. But I couldn't agree with you more, because to add a layer of supporting evidence to what you're saying is my mother really did the best that she could, because she was basically raised by her older sister, which was not much older than her, because her mother died giving birth to her. And then her dad died when she was very young. I want to say under 2. So if we want to talk about role models and parenting styles, like my mom really did the best that she could, and she's the best mom. I couldn't ask for a better mom. I'm very grateful I got to spend time with her yesterday for Mother's Day, and that we have a great relationship. So
yeah, thank you for saying that. That's one of the key points, because we have to be able to look back and see how our parents were raised with their parents and what was going on during those generations and things like that, because they could impact how our parents treat us in that worry and concern and circumstances and things like that again, as children, we take offense to, or we blame them for these things, but we have to at some point take responsibility for our life as an adult and clean that up.
Right. Clean that up, and also understand that, you know, this is the first time that they're doing life too, right? And understanding that just as much as we'll never understand what they went through, like I'm not going to understand my dad dodging little landmines in the dirt, you know, flooding a war. I'm not going to understand the PTSD from all of that. I can acknowledge it, but I will never fully understand it. They can't understand what it's like for me to have a chronic illness like lupus. They're never going to understand the level of depression that I have as a result from this diagnosis. Their level of depression might be different, but we have to coexist and have grace for each other and understand that we all have different things that have shaped who we are today. And I think that it's really important to give your parents those acknowledgments and tell them that you're self-aware of what you're going through, but also what they're going through, and give each other support that way, you know?
Yeah. That's my main conversation outside of these sickle cell trait talks and stuff. Like, that's what I've been drawn to, because it's reconciliation, forgiveness inside of there, right? And that's important for us in our sense of belonging and how we have relationship with other people. Are we carrying all those things to the next relationship, all the upsets and frustrations? So I didn't figure that out till I was 40.
Yeah.
Right? And now I'm 54 and I got 14 years of that level of healing. And it's like, okay, if I went through that, I can only imagine what other people are dealing with. And no wonder the world looks like it does today, because we're all dealing with something. But where is it really coming from?
Right.
And a lot of it comes from, you know, the most important people of our life, which is our parents.
Yeah. Ian, I love that you're bringing that up, because I am a huge supporter of, you know, I read Psychology Today as leisure, you know, that and Forbes. But I love psychology. My undergrad is in psychology and social behaviors.
Oh, well, see, there you go. You get it.
Yeah, I get it. I love therapy. I think everybody should be in therapy.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of talks about that nowadays, about your inner child and how, you know, your nurturing shapes who you are today. So I love that. I was here thinking I was just going to talk about lupus, but I love that you're bringing this into it too, because it helps people understand that there's other variables that could, in my mind, like exacerbate the disease. Excuse me, that's probably the lupus god.
It's okay.
Yeah, it can definitely impact how you see the world.
Yes.
And how you cope with hard times.
Yes.
So I think that it is really important. And I'm not going to sit here acting like I got it all perfect and down.
No.
I think parent relationship, these interpersonal relationships that you have in your lives are so important to nurture and pour into, because I don't have it perfect. There's still some cultural differences between how my parents see things and how I see things.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% okay with my parents all the time. It's a work in progress, right? We can ask our parents to communicate with us in a way that helps us heal, but at the same time, they can only do it to the extent that they know how to do it. But also, when we're asking for these things and we want our needs to be met, we should never forget to ask how we can meet their needs too.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Thank you so much. And you say interpersonal relationships. What I got for myself at 40 was the intrapersonal relationship, which I had to go within and heal myself first before I could go and try to talk to my parents. And when I saw that, that's why I was able to go to my parents for forgiveness. I didn't wait for them to come to me. I went to them to clean up my behavior.
Hold your breath. They're never going to come.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So exactly. So I share that as the child to parent, we can go to our parents and acknowledge our behavior, and also acknowledge, hey, guess what, Mom? I turned out fine. You did your job. Thank you. You know, and that could be just enough for that parent to exhale.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one thing that should be noted is that you went on this journey to find yourself, to better yourself for the people around you. And that takes a lot of courage. And sometimes it's not that people that can't go on that journey don't have the courage. Sometimes I think there's hindering thoughts within certain cultures and certain backgrounds where people don't want other people notating what is going on in their life. People don't want to talk about their weaknesses. People don't want to admit that they have a problem. But if you don't admit that you have a problem, that problem will persist and it will affect people around you. So I think that the greatest gift you could give to your loved ones is to work on yourself and actually heal yourself so that you can love them better.
Yeah. We got some comments over here. Leonard.
Oh, hi, Leonard.
Gave you a heart over there.
It's so funny that he came on, because that's the celebrity chef I was telling you about.
And then we got one more. We got
I mean, my
Lena,
cousin Lena. See, I have all
another
these.
heart.
My cousin
So
Lena is
thank you all.
amazing. She has her own journey with her health as well, and
Okay.
I really think she's a strong cookie. And she's, we're finally like getting on our health game, and
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
really proud of her. Yeah.
Growing up, did you play any sports? Let's talk about. I do a sports show, so you have any sports background?
No. So that's part of the overprotectiveness, right? Yeah. I mean, as two little girls, my mom was like, you can't do anything that possibly might hurt your face or break your bones or anything, right? So we ended up, I was like, Mom, I really don't like PE. Like, can I just do something else? Well, the only other option to, avoid running was dance. So me and my sister, we were in dance class in high school. All throughout the 4 years, we did ballet and jazz. And of course, they had other forms of hip hop and other things in that class. But when we were performing for the dance show, it was mainly jazz and ballet. We had a tap number too, but you can imagine the jokes with our last name.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that's what we did. I mean, if you consider dance as a sport,
I
some
mean,
people, I think so. They compete, but you're
yeah,
the one running the sports show. Do you ever have dancers on the show?
of course. From
That's good. That's
I want dancers, cheerleaders. But the question that I want to point to in that is the mental toughness. Where did you develop your mental toughness from? From your parents, from your environment, from the dancing? Like, where would you say that mental toughness came from?
First of all, thank you for saying I have mental toughness.
We all have a level of it somewhere. We all have a level of it.
Yeah, I mean the first thing that came to mind was I'm from Long Beach. That's the first thing, and then the second.
I would agree with you for sure. Long Beach used to be
I
crazy.
think most of the people in my city would agree. And I would say the second thing is just being raised by immigrants. I think immigrants coming to this country, they know they have to work hard. They hit the ground running. Nothing was handed to me. Nothing was handed to my parents. And they came here with nothing. And I couldn't be more proud of my parents. And I couldn't be more proud of what they've taught me business-wise, what they've taught me about income property, what they've taught me about saving. Just having that mindset that you don't need instant gratification, that you can delay that process and all that good will come later has been very, very important to me in my growth process and how I found success through real estate. So obviously, I think most people know doing real estate, it's a grind. Yeah. You got to put in your work, right? So I've been in it for almost 17 years now, licensed. So yeah, I don't have to bring out that hustle as often as I used to. Thank goodness to my repeat clients. Shout out to them. But it's in there. It can come out anytime. Yeah. You just let me know.
Yeah, sure. I bet. Definitely equate the mental toughness to Long Beach. Have to say no more.
Enough said.
Enough said about that part of that. We're about halfway through. I want to touch on something you said about your parents. I'm working on a piece called "America Tell the Truth," right? Like Obama, America Tell the Truth, right? And a lot of times, what I'm learning as I've done my own healing with my own ancestors, and being Black, and the talk about slavery and all these Jim Crow laws. But there was a lot of people that came to this United States seeking that what your parents came for, right? About a better opportunity. A lot of times that gets forgotten, that there's a class of people that were second-class citizens just like we are, right? The Irish, the German, the Polish, but now today they get to check the white box, right? Because they're included by race. And that emotional inclusion, the psychology conversation of the inclusion and exclusion of the emotional piece, I believe that is still something that's in the way of us as a society, of why we label one another. I'm Black, you're white, you're Asian, you're this. it disconnects that human connection from us because of these labels. But if we tell the truth and peel off the labels, we would discover that a lot of people who came to this country were not different in our emotional experience, that our ancestors brought over a lot of emotional wounds that we haven't really dealt with, which could be the issue of our society not even being united. Do you have any kind of comment on that part of,
Yeah,
society?
I definitely do. Thank God I am part of an office that's very inclusive. We've had town hall meetings, we've had meetings for different. We've done one for Stop Asian Hate, we've done one for gay rights. My office is incredible for inclusive, and being inclusive of everybody and making sure everybody has a voice and a place to like share their experience. I co-ran one of the Stop Asian Hate town halls, and it was really eye-opening. And I think one conversation I recently had, that I do want to bring up, that kind of opened up my eyes, that I don't think I did a good job of saying it in that moment, but it's kind of good that you asked because now I'm reflecting on it, is that I was having this conversation with someone who was half Native American, right? So if you want to talk about, other people coming to this country, we're talking about someone who is from this country, right? And so what I realized is that one of the biggest problems is we all have a story to tell. Some cultures are more open about it than others. Some cultures have the money to provide museums and tell their story. Other cultures are very private, very ashamed. And so the awareness, and this is just so funny that it's parallel to lupus, right? The awareness is everything, right? Without awareness, lupus isn't going to get the drugs they need. Without awareness about cultural differences and what people went through, people aren't going to understand unless you dig it up. You're not being taught in school. But what I realized while I'm reflecting on this thought, as you're asking, and this is the first time I've actually said it, is that it's really important to understand that everybody has a different story and not fight each other for the spotlight of whose story is most important, right? Is to listen. And I made that mistake during this conversation because I think it's hard to hear what other people are going through and say, wait, what about what my parents went through? And I was guilty of it. I'm here to say, like, I do see it that way now, is that you could have your time and talk about it, and I would love to learn from you. But would you like to learn from me as well? And I hope that we could have more of that energy where we want to reciprocate that love and care and true curiosity for each other and everybody's upbringing and how they got here and why they have that fight, that mental, strength that you were talking about here. Yeah. And so I feel like it's very important to have those hard conversations because, like I said, in this conversation, it wasn't coming through in that moment. Right. But it came through right after. And now I'm able to share what I learned through that experience. And hopefully that can help other people too. Right. So I think it's really important. It's really important because I think when you talk about the boxes, I feel it all the time. Right. Yeah. Even within a broader category of Asian. Right.
Exactly.
Asian isn't just Chinese or Japanese. Yeah. Cambodians never get their own box. Yeah. They never get their own box. So what do you put? Hispanic? Is that what you want me to put?
Right.
So I think it's really difficult. And even with what I do, I want to bring up when it comes to disclosing your sexual orientation, your race, your ethnicity. I'm in the real estate business. Do you know how many of my minority clients do not click a certain race or ethnicity due to a mental block that they may get qualified for a loan because of the history behind it?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That is a wound. Right. That is an emotional wound.
Right. When I have an interracial couple, do my couples normally want me to put the last name that is more American first?
Oh my God.
Right? Because they want the house. So we still struggle with all of these things till this day. And it is a big issue.
It is.
It is a big issue, but I think that's what I love about my clients is that they know I will fight hard for them.
Yeah.
So also, despite my last name, I'm still going to be the one that gets them the best deal. I'm still the one that gets them their deal accepted, and they know it.
Despite the last name. Despite the last name.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is you hear it all the time, right? Working twice as hard to get the same result.
Yeah.
I'll work 3 times as hard. I'll do it, because I do think that every family deserves the opportunity to have a happy home. So.
And this is it's layered in society that way. It's layered for me as a 24-year Army veteran retired, who at 19 years old was trained to objectify another human being to a terrorist and then kill that terrorist. But that's a human being. It's the same as the police officers in the community labeling us as suspects before I'm a person, and then you treat me as a suspect first. Like I'm a Laker fan, you're a Clipper fan. People kill each other in stadiums because of a team jersey that they don't even own. That's how powerful that objectification is in our mindset. And we want people to understand that we need that skill to survive life, but out of context, that same label of objectification, it also disconnects us from our human connection. So
absolutely. And I wish people took more time to critically think about like these little things that come up in everyday life. Like whether you hear about these stereotypes from other people or, you hear something and you believe it's true, but you never really check up on it. I really wish people would just ask more questions and not assume. Or when that rage comes up inside of you, it's like, ask yourself, why am I so mad about that? Is it because they're just so different? So I don't understand it. Like, what is it? Like
shame. You said it earlier. Shame, embarrassment. Right. There's a lot of stuff that's connected to that. Thank you. I'm going to play this PSA. We're going to come back and jump into your lupus awareness story. All right.
Good. I can't wait.
All right, here we go. Again, this is the Farron D show. You can catch me. Man, I got like 5 shows. So where do I start? Here. I'm doing this special edition right here, but usually this show is on Thursdays, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 a.m. in the Inland Empire. I'm live on the air there, 8 o'clock at night. I'm on now Lit Live. Used to be Dash Radio, but now it's Lit Live. I have a Christian hip hop talk show with J Love, and so we do that it airs on Saturdays at 5 p.m. No, Saturdays on 7 p.m. and then Sundays at 5 p.m. So that's on Lit Live, God's House of Hip Hop. It's called the Revolution Radio Show. We do that talk show there. I do Beyond 2D with Jessica. Actually, that episode is tomorrow, every second and fourth Tuesday. What else? And I also have the military show I brought back, my Trench Talk segment. That's Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So if you fit any of those categories and you want to be a guest on one of those platforms, you're more than welcome to hang out with me at Farron D on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be right back with more of Kelly's story. And this is my public service announcement. Let me find it real quick. Where we at? All right, here we go.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold, man.
I hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasm, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn, are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait. There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Again, welcome back to the Farron D Show. Right here, streaming live from my Facebook page and from the YouTube site. So let's get this conversation back. You doing good? Are you good so far?
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you for asking.
All right. So let's get into this lupus awareness piece of this talk. Tell me what was going on before the that led up to the diagnosis. What was going on in life at the time?
There was a lot going on. I was working a lot. I was working for a foreclosure company at the time, and it was a smaller company that started off at Keller Williams Coastal, and he was Rookie of the Year at the time. So he ended up going to get a satellite office in Bixby Knolls in Long Beach, and I didn't know he was leaving Keller Williams, but I had already joined the team. So I ended up leaving Keller Williams for just a short time. But the rest of my career, I was pretty much with Keller Williams at Coastal Properties, now at Pacific Estates for the longest time, and then a little bit at KW Marina Pacifica when I worked in LA. But at the time, I was the only buyer's agent. And then the whole group, it grew with other buyer's agents. So I started training other people with what I was doing. And then I ended up deciding that I needed to go to grad school because that was something that I had thought about for a long time, that if I didn't go at that time, if I got married and had kids, I wouldn't go because I would just be so busy being a mom. So I was like, this is a small window of opportunity. I need to go now. So I had a hard time deciding which school to go to and what I wanted to study. So I ended up taking both the GRE and the GMAT because I didn't know if I wanted to do business or something else. So I was like, let's just take both and then see how I score, and then we'll just decide from there. What I didn't realize is that when you commit to these things and you're committing to real estate, you're committing to be a buyer's agent, you are committing to make a certain number of sales for your team, and you are committing to do well on these 2 standardized tests. And I was also going through a breakup at the time that I did not want to face and just pretend it wasn't happening, which now I know is not the way you deal with a breakup. And just bury my head in work, addicted to the BlackBerry.
Oh, the BlackBerry back then, huh?
Yeah. I think I had 4 different BlackBerries. Yeah, so it was difficult. I spread my time very thinly. So I need to watch that nowadays too, is that when I'm busy, I could get really busy. but I have to watch it because I realize that I could get a lot done in one day. I'm a big to-do list person. I'm a big schedule person. So I was running my life between like, I think driving out to Bakersfield at the time, to Orange County for like my GMAT GRE stuff, to like my business was in Long Beach and some of the listings were like in the middle of nowhere in the Bay Area, not even Bay Area, sorry, South Bay. And I just felt that I was spread really, really thin because, again, from that immigrant mentality that my parents had, I had to be the best at everything. So I had to be the best buyer's agent. I had to score a certain amount on the GRE and GMAT to go to a certain school because it had to be a caliber that was appropriate for what I thought was good at the time. And so it's high stakes everywhere. Perfectionists, like to the highest level, right? And it was a lot of things going on internally that I wasn't really dealing with. I just wanted to do well externally, right? So it got to a point where I was swollen from head to toe. I was falling down left and right, thinking these were the days where I still wore heels, right? I don't wear heels anymore. I mean, I have a little booty, but I don't wear the 3-inch stilettos anymore, right? Those days I did, and I was falling, and I was like, okay, why am I falling? Like, it must be I didn't eat, it must be that. Why do I have lesions on my feet? Oh, it must be the dirty foreclosure, it was like infested with fleas or something. It must be that, right? So all these things started happening. I didn't think anything of it. I had lesions on my face, and I was like, oh, it's just probably a broken capillary. Let me go to Sephora, like any girl would do, right? Sephora, fix this, right? They didn't know anything about lupus, butterfly rashes. They know nothing about that. So if something happens to your girls, do not go to Sephora. Can you please go to the dermatologist?
Right.
So I didn't add it all up. I knew nothing about lupus, nothing. And so it wasn't until I was swollen from head to toe. My dad worked at Honeywell for most of his career. So I had really good insurance growing up. But at that point, I was past the age to get his insurance. And as an independent contractor, as a real estate agent, I didn't have good insurance. In fact, I think at that point I had no insurance. Because a lot of us think we're super women, Superman. We don't need to go to the doctor. We're fine. We're invincible, right? So I didn't have any coverage. And so at the time, I was still living with my parents because this was grad school. I was still saving to pay for grad school, right? And so my mom noticed I wasn't home a lot, right? I was barely home. I was working so much, studying this and that, the other. And when I was home, I would just be locked up in my room. So then one day she was knocking on my door. She's like, get out. I need to just like look at you in your face. This is how busy I was. I didn't see my mom. She's like, you're swollen. I need to take you to the doctor. I was like, leave me alone. I'm fine. Right. Invincible. Right. No, she did it again the second day. And she's like, get up. We're going to go. I don't care if you don't have insurance. I talked to a friend. I found a clinic. We're going to go. I was so sick that they made me stand outside because they thought I had SARS. This is before COVID, guys, SARS. So they said I looked so sick, then they were afraid that I was going to infect the whole clinic, that I waited outside for somebody to come see me.
Wow.
And they didn't let me in. They let me in, and then they said it was 4 things: idiosyncratic disorders, cancer, leukemia, or lupus. My mom started crying.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, what's the least severe? That's what I have. Right. And I was like, can I just get back to work now? So they're like, no, you have to go to the county hospital. Like, this is serious. And I went there. I was like, okay, they're just going to run some tests and I could be home. In denial the whole time. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks at the hospital, the longest I ever been hospitalized. And they would not let me out of that hospital. I probably closed on 3 houses in my hospital bed. So I will be at the final walkthrough for your keys. I'll be there, I promise, with an IV stuck to me. Like, I'm going to really make it, Because in my mind, I'm like, I could beat this. Whatever this is, I could beat it. I'll be there. It was a disaster. But thank God at the time, like I had people that were helping me. My boss at the time helped me do a few final walkthroughs. I'm really grateful for him. And my parents were great supporters as well. Like as far as diet and exercise go to get me back on my feet.
Yeah.
My mom did everything she could. She walked with me on Signal Hill.
Oh, wow.
She made me unseasoned vegetables and meats, exactly what I'm supposed to eat to get healthy. It really did work. It worked.
Wow.
I got a personal trainer. That helped too. That really helped speed up the process for me to get back on my feet. But what I didn't know was how much depression it caused.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we talk about the stages of grief, right? When
Yeah.
someone knows they're gonna die, they probably go through it a few times and then they die. But someone with a chronic illness, you're constantly in denial. You're constantly angry. You're constantly, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Right? Why don't they have a cure? Why don't they understand this disease better? You know? So it is really like it really messes with your mind.
Yeah.
And so I did have depression, which I didn't know I had. And luckily, I found help. It was an 8-week course for people coping with a chronic illness.
Okay.
And I found it through like a Long Beach program. And I thought I was good for a little bit, but I ended up asking, can I do it again? So I did it twice, even against the therapist's will. I did it a second time. And I thought I got better, but you know, it comes and goes. I think like when you have to deal with a chronic illness and you feel like nobody gets you, you feel like you don't want to explain why you're tired. You don't want to show weakness. Because the truth of the matter is most lupus patients I know are type A. I don't know if you've experienced this, but they're type A. So even if they're groggy, tired, didn't get enough sleep, they're going to get their work done.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you do not write anybody off just because they have a chronic illness, because chances are they did so much to understand that illness that they'll work around the clock to get stuff done, and they can do a job just as well as anybody else can.
Exactly.
Message to all the employers: do not write off your employees or the people that you hire for certain services just because they're sick, because it all depends on the person. So look at their track record. Don't judge them. And actually, that's twofold. Don't judge somebody by the cover, right? Because this is an invisible disease, just like your disease is invisible. Just because I look okay doesn't mean I'm feeling okay. Okay, so I think it's hard to expect people to understand your story, to give you grace, to understand you're having an off day, right? So what I found the most support was I call her my state sister. She's basically a sister from another mother. Her name is Annie Gutierrez. Well, now she's also a real estate agent. And she didn't know me very well, but she came to the hospital during that 2 weeks. She gave me a whole pamphlet of Lupus Foundation of America, which her aunt gave her late aunt. So rest in peace to her auntie, who gave me all this info, which is how I got involved with the Lupus Foundation of America to begin with. I built a strong relationship with her. I've been to like multiple countries with her. We're still close. I was at her wedding in the beginning of the year. Congrats to Ronnie and Ralph on they're newly married. Unfortunately, she gave it to me while her auntie had it. Her auntie passed away. She knew she had the gene, but no signs. And recently, unfortunately, she's been diagnosed with lupus. So now it's like I get to like check on her like she was checking on me. So yeah, I think it's kind of like a full circle story with that. And I think my point in bringing her up and bringing up my best friend Nia is that your support system is so important. And unless you have lupus or sickle cell anemia like you have, you don't get it. So you need to build a communication, build a community where you have that communication with people who have it, Because as much as your loved ones tell you, I have your back and I'll bring you food and I understand you're tired, they don't understand that they really have it. So you have to seek comfort in people that understand, or if the people around you really love you, bring them to an event, bring them to a sickle cell, event, lupus event, MS event, whatever disease you're dealing with. Your loved ones should be interested enough to go with you.
Yeah. And a couple of things that you said, your experience of what you were dealing with and up until your diagnosis. I look at the not just the emotional part of being driven, right? But also the physical part of being driven, which you can be driven so much, right? In this stuff that's but in the background of our life, in the background of our subconscious mind, that we can be driven, hustle, grind. We got labels named, we got titles for it that we honor. I'm a grinder, I'm hustling, but what are you really doing to yourself physically, emotionally?
Exactly.
And where is that coming from? Right?
100%. You have to ask yourself, is this worth dying for? Right? People ask me, why do you work so hard? Those same people aren't paying my bills, right? So why do I work so hard? But yeah, you are so right in that, right? It's not just the external, how your livelihood and how you support yourself, but it's the physical being alive and actually having the ability to breathe and work out and be there for your loved ones. That's a way more important topic, right? And I think that's what ended up happening, is that you have this spring cleaning of your life, and you realize when you're diagnosed, who showed up at the hospital. I have a total hip replacement. Who showed up at the hospital? People that I wouldn't even expect. But then you also you have to cling on to the people that love you, right? Love those who love you. And you can wish other people the best, but if people are just there because you have a great social calendar and you bring a lot of joy to their life in that way, when you have a disease like this where you kind of face death, you understand the importance of investing in the people that invest in you and who has your best, they have the best intentions for your well-being, and then vice versa, right? So that happened too. I had a spring cleaning of friends, and I don't have any hard feelings for the people that are not in my life anymore. I wish them the best, and I'm grateful for what they served at that time. But I do have a great circle now who I strongly love deeply, that I know for a fact loves me back. And
it's funny. It's funny. No, it's funny you say that, because on the Beyond 2D show, we dive into topics, and we were talking about boundaries, and I really, because of how I live now, I challenge my thoughts and my reality up against nature, right? And so I can't show you what my boundaries are. Oh, there's my boundary over there in the corner. I can't show you the boundary, right? And so it was difficult for me to hear Jessica share about her boundaries. But then one morning on the prayer line, the prophet came on. He was sharing that people are not our problems. People have problems, right? And so I started to look at life from, people are not our problem, but they have problems. And then what I discovered in that was, well, I cannot be your friend with you because of how your behavior is. I'm not judging you for your behavior, but I do have a say in hanging out with you if you're gonna come with this type of behavior. And it just blew my mind to get that in my heart, to see, that's what a boundary could look like. I'm not judging you as the person, but I do have a say in who I put my energy or put my time with in your behavior. So I love you, but I don't have to spend time with you.
Right.
And you have to keep it, and you have to communicate. For me, you have to communicate to that person so that they know I'm not ghosting you, or it's not you, but it's your behavior. And I don't need that in my life in this moment in my time. And so that just gave me another perspective of what a boundary could look like when people describe their life and say, I have boundaries. Then I'm listening so what does that, what does that look like? Or what does that sound like? So I appreciate you for saying that, because you do have to sometimes clean house.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
Friends.
I didn't want to. It was like it had to happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it is when we are diagnosed with a certain chronic illness, sometimes there's silver linings in it, right? We could sit there and drown in the sorrows and how horrible it is, but there, you live life with more zest. You understand that there is a limited time that we're here on this planet. You waste less time on the things that don't matter, right? So I think that those are the silver linings for me with lupus. And I could have 3 or 4 of these podcasts with you to talk about self-concept of what it does. Because when you brought up that whole, what about your physical being? It's like, okay, what are the things that happen to you aside from sickle cell anemia or lupus, right? I had a total hip replacement. I had Bell's palsy, right? I have chronic problems with my health in other organs and parts and tissues of my body that are ongoing. I have friends that have brain problems, lung problems, skin problems. Okay. So it's just, the list goes on, and it really does affect your self-concept. And we could even talk about how that plays out in the dating world, in marriage. And, there's so many things that we could talk about when it comes to that. But I feel like you're bringing up so many topics that I'm passionate about. So I want to thank you for being such a good host and asking the right questions.
For sure. Thank you. My last question, so I can let you get back to work, is what do you want the world to know about lupus?
What I want the world to know about lupus is at this point such an impactful disease. It's affecting over 1.5 million Americans and over 3 million people worldwide. And I want people to put a spotlight on lupus and the other autoimmune disorders that are not getting the awareness that they deserve, because some of the other diseases may have more backing and more money, and they're able to get the help that they need and find certain cures. But the other diseases need that spotlight too. There's so many people that are also dealing with multiple illnesses at once, right? Some people have both sickle cell anemia and lupus, just like our host just mentioned. So I think that it's really, really important when you put your donating dollars out there to spread it out and to make sure that you are spreading the love, because without awareness, you're not going to get the funding. Without funding, you are not going to get a cure. Yeah. And so I just want to put it out there to the world that please love on everybody, because your time is limited. And if you want to be giving, please give to a great cause. And Lupus Foundation of America is a great cause. I will be walking again this year.
Oh, okay.
And I would love your support in just putting some funds for the lupus community, because we are suffering. And if you think about the history of lupus and how long it's been, for them to finally come up with a drug, Benlysta, a few years back, is ridiculous. It's been here for a long time. You've only found one drug specifically approved for lupus. The last LFA event said that there is another drug that's starting trials, but we know how long that is before it comes into fruition. So we need that money to keep doing these trials and research. So thank you so much for your support. And I really hope that when you do donate next time that you'll consider lupus.
Please let them know how they can contact you for your awareness or for your businesses.
Yes. And just so you know, any newly diagnosed lupus patients, feel free to contact me. I love talking to you and giving you advice and just lending you an ear. You can contact me at Tap Into Real Estate. That handle works for Instagram. There's a Tap Into Real Estate on Facebook. My website is tapintorealestate.com. And if you want to DM me there, I promise that I will get back to you. And I hope that you like and follow my food page as well, which is SoCal Foodie Realtor, and my business page, Tap Into Real Estate.
Did I miss anything that you want to share, you want to say before I let you go?
I just want to say thank you for your work. obviously this takes a lot of time for you to interview all of these great people that you've had on your show. So I do recognize that this is such a large piece of charity that you're doing through your podcast and just giving different diseases. Not only, I love that you didn't stick to just what you have, but you're able to bring in a bigger community of different diseases and different people's like stories and their backgrounds. And I think that's helping everybody relate and kind of support one another. And I love all the elements that you bring into it. And it isn't just specifically about the disease, but it's about who they are, what their story is, and how we can learn from each other. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. That is the reason why I do this. As a veteran, you know, I was taught and ingrained that civilians don't understand you. They won't understand you because you're a soldier. They don't. But I don't understand me. But if you can relate to me, if you could use your imagination as we do all day long, what would you do in these circumstances? How would you feel in these? And now that the relatedness conversation allows us to talk, not for me to try to understand you because I'm only listening to what I can understand, and then I'm throwing everything else away that you're talking about. But the relatedness of these conversations this is like my personal therapy, because I want people to, you know, have these type of conversations that you're not by yourself. These are human conditions, these are human experiences, and we're all dealing with something in our life, right?
Yeah.
Something.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, in closing, that piece of mental health that you just mentioned, aside from the diseases, aside from everything else, like if anybody feels alone, please reach out to your loved ones. Yeah. Please, like, use the hotline number. Please get therapy. Like, I urge people to do that because it could be a very dark place, but you're not alone.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you.
You're so welcome.
Having this opportunity to talk to you.
It's such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right. This is the Farron D Show, special edition Lupus Awareness Month. Of course, we have to have it. We have to share it. If you want more information, at Farron Dozier on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And again, we got more time this month, so I have a couple more guests lined up for next week. So yeah, if you want to be a guest, share the Lupus Awareness Month, share your support system, whatever you have. If you care about the lupus community, you're more than welcome to come and contact me and be a part of the show here. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show, and this is my Blog Talk. But I have Blog Talk KCI, whatever. You'll be able to find it on all the different platforms. The Farron D Show right here. Appreciate you for your time.